tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Okay, good morning everybody.
Good morning.
So, let's start. And today we are going to see the rootless consciousness, unwholesome resultant consciousness. One of the rootless consciousness, which is the unwholesome resultant. And before starting, I would like to ask if somebody tried the quiz. And if you have any question about the quiz or anything.
I had a question in
Yes.
number 4, I think it was. About the cittas that are related to the 12 unwholesome.
All 12,
Yeah,
yes.
I had a little bit of doubt there.
What is your doubt?
But I thought that it was like I thought it was for example Vidana and I think Viti. Those are
Everything, you think?
Exactly.
So I think maybe there was maybe the question was not clear because the idea of the question was which of them are common to all. Like which of them happens in all of them.
All of them. Okay.
So for example, Diti and Dosa or all these ones,
Are
they
not
happens only in Dosa Mula Chitta, but not in Loba Mula.
Okay.
I mean, Diti happen only in Loba Mula Chitta, great rooted consciousness, but not in Dosa Mula Chitta and not in Moha Mula Chitta.
Okay.
And so they are not common to all three categories.
Okay.
So the ones that are common to all three of them are Udacha, restlessness, agitation, and Moha, delusion, because delusion is universal also, so it happens in all 12 of them, and also Vedana.
Okay.
Vedana, although it's not good nor bad, is ethically variable. It can be good or it can. I mean, it is not good or bad. It depends on who it associates with. But because all kinds of consciousness is associated with Vedana, whatever kind it may be, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, depend on situation. So Vedana is also one of those that accompanies all of them.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why 3. So maybe the question was not very.
Well, maybe for me at least. No, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And I had another one. When I don't know which one is it. It was asking what was related to moha, and it was loba and dosa, and I didn't answer moha because moha is moha. But now I think it's because it's a dish and it's an ingredient that it's related to itself.
Is it the one with checkbox?
Yes.
Like that one. So that question was in each kind of chitta, in great rooted consciousness, which roots are present in that kind of consciousness. So in great rooted consciousness, although it is great rooted, but we already mentioned that moha is also there. Moha is also another root. So it is greed and delusion in case of greed-rooted consciousness. And in case of hatred-rooted consciousness, dosa mula chitta, obviously dosa, and moha also, because moha is also there. So it's two roots are there. And for delusion-rooted consciousness, because there is no loba and no dosa, only moha, so it's only delusion-rooted consciousness, only one root. Yes? Okay, everybody? Yes. Okay, so let's do a quick revision of what we saw last week. So last week we were talking about akusala chitta, unwholesome consciousness, and just as what we said right now, loba mula chitta, greed-rooted consciousness, have 2 roots, although it is only mentioned loba because loba is more obvious and the character is stronger. I mean, it's more obvious, so that's why it's called greed-rooted consciousness. But of course, surely moha is also there. So 2 roots.
Ignorance.
So, ignorance, delusion is also there. So it's 2 roots. And for hatred-rooted consciousness, dosa mula chitta, also in the same way, because dosa it's more noisy, it's more prominent, more obvious. So that's why, although it is called dosa mula chitta, hatred-rooted consciousness, delusion is also always there. So it has 2 roots in this kind of consciousness. And in moha mula, because there is no loba and no dosa, so there is only 1 root. So those are the consciousness, citta, that we saw last week. And we also saw that the characteristic, the specialty of delusion is to make the mind fuzzy, that it is not clear, make the mind not clear, or to cover or hide how reality really is, hide nature of reality, so we don't see things as impermanent, etc.
As they really
As
are.
they really are. And also moha does things without knowing it is good or bad. No? So this is the character of moha, of delusion, which is a little bit dull. This kind of consciousness, that's why it can only associate with what kind of feeling? Neutral feeling.
Neutral.
Yes, neutral feeling. And also it can be associated with doubt, that kind of consciousness where it is only purely with delusion, without, because it is not with lova. When we are doubt, we are not wanting something, or we are not having aversion to something. So those kind of consciousness is purely in the family of moha family, delusion family. And also it could be only restlessness. Yes, so also there was a last question in the quiz that if doubt always, if doubt always accompany restlessness. So the answer is no, because restlessness is a universal cettasika and it accompanies all 12 kinds of akusala, citta, of unwholesome consciousness. But in the number 11 also, that is the first moha family citta, it is accompanied with doubt and of course restlessness, because restlessness accompanies everybody, so both of them are there. But in the other kind, the last kind of moha family, it's with purely restlessness without doubt. So that's why doubt does not accompany all the time. But if it was flipped, if it was if restlessness accompanied doubt all the time, then yes.
Okay.
Yes, so that was also a little bit tricky. So that's why there was a tips, think twice in that question. Okay, so that was what we saw last week, and today it's gonna be interesting. Well, for me, this because we're going to look at the mental process, and for me it is a very interesting theme. And so before we go into that, we have to remember a little bit since from the second session about citta. When we talked about citta, I think maybe you still remember that we talked about cittas, consciousness according to different planes. Yes? So we have kamavachara citta, cittas with characteristic of the plane of senses. Yes? Then we have rupavachara citta, consciousness with characteristic of the planes of materiality. Yes, you remember? So these types are the types that are in the plane of the senses, no? Like its object is mostly of the senses. This is the consciousness that we mostly experience day by day. And this type of consciousness arises when one is in meditation. Yes, when one is in deep meditation, and it takes the object, the concept based on material as meditation object. So that's why this is called the consciousness with characteristic of plane of materiality. Remember, say for example, this person, she's meditating and she's taking an object like earth. This goes earth. So this earth, then he or she is concentrating only on that object. And that object, of course, later on it becomes a concept because it is in the mind. Because if you close his eyes, he should still see the earth, the object in his or her mind. But that object is based on a matter. Hola. Yes.
Can we say that kamavachara, it's the external object, and in rupavachara, it's the internal object?
In kamavachara, it is not always outside, because mind object is also included. So we can also take, for example, if I remember a chocolate cake that I like very much, also only in the mind. I don't see the chocolate cake now in the present moment. So that's also kind of can be in kamavachara citta. Kamavachara the plane of the sense sphere, it arises in the mind with those kind of objects.
But
So-
yes, we can say that this is more mental. Well,
Yes,
it's
this is purely,
more
it's
mental.
purely mental.
Yes, but the other one also can be only mental. When we remember a song, we are not actually listening to the song, but the sound
Is in the
it's a
mind.
mental object. Or when we remember the face of a friend or a family person, the object is mental. We are not really experiencing from the outside, but this one can also be mental. And ultimately, all the objects, what we see, what we hear, what we smell and taste, it's being experienced by the mind. The mind is making sense of it. So it's it's very mental actually. But it has materiality as input, like rays of light, this, particles of smell, touch, and like this.
The objects are different.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So then we have another kind of consciousness. That's when a person is again in deep meditation, but then this time he's taking a non-material concept as its meditation object. So, for example, space or infinite space. So, infinite space is not matter. Space itself is matter, but if he's concentrating his mind, is expanding in one concept of the idea, infinite space. So that's his meditation object, and then he becomes very, very concentrated, and then he enters into concentration absorption. Then this kind of consciousness, arupa vachara citta, arises in this person.
Very subtle.
Yes.
Very, very subtle.
Yes. Okay. So. And then we also talked about supermundane consciousness. That's when a person get enlightened. Then when he experiences nibbana as object, then this kind of consciousness arises in his mind. Yes. So we also talked about that. There is a feeling, and it is a little bit like that. Feels like step by step. No, like this is like very mundane, and then we meditate, and then get more concentration, and then get enlightened. It feels a little bit like that, but it's not necessarily that it goes step by step, because they are consciousness that arises according to different circumstances, different situations. Say for example, a totally enlightened person. Then when he is not meditating in that state, he also go here and there, and then he also eat, and he also do some other things. So those time, then it could be also he can also have other kinds of object, not taking nibbana as object all the time. So this kind of consciousness can also arise in his mind. And if the enlightened person now he wants to meditate, and then so this kind of consciousness also can arise in his mind. Or a person, he can't contemplate vipassana meditation, because these two types of consciousness is only concentration, the samatha meditation. Yes,
One-pointedness meditation. Focus on one object.
Focus on one object. So in vipassana meditation, insight meditation, which is the one that leads to liberation, it is also possible that a person practices only without these two kind of consciousness and arrive to the enlightenment with taking nibbana as object. It is also possible. So it depends on the situation which kind of consciousness arises. So it's not definitely step by step. Yes. Okay. So we already saw this in session 2, and why I come back here is because I wanted to remind everybody that we are now in the first category. Yes, in the first category, kama vachara citta, and here in Pali, CA is pronounced as cha instead of ka. So that's why it's called kama vachara instead of kama vakara. Yes, so this is just for your information. So kama vachara citta is, as we saw, further divided into akusala citta, unwholesome consciousness, which we just completed last week. The first category of the sense sphere consciousness, greed-rooted consciousness, hatred-rooted consciousness, delusion-rooted consciousness. So these are the 3 types of the akusala cittas, unwholesome consciousness. So we already completed the first category. So there are still 2 more to go for kama vachara citta. The second one is ahetuka citta, which means rootless consciousness. consciousness without roots. And there is another category, kama vachara sovana citta, sense sphere, but they are beautiful consciousness. They are not associated with the unwholesome roots. So they are these three family. And today we are going to the second group of this. Okay, now, so as we talked about root and rootless consciousness, so let's just remember a little bit what are the roots. The roots actually in ultimate reality, they are cittas, they are mental factors. So these 6 kind, greed, lobha, dosa, aversion, moha, delusion, the 3 bad roots and the 3 good roots. Alobha, generosity, adosa, loving kindness, and amoha, which is wisdom. So these 6 kind of roots, these 6 kind of cettasika, 6 kind of mental factors, they are quite strong, and they are important, like the roots in the plants. When the plants have roots, then they get a nutriment from there and become very strong with that characteristic. No, so because these 6 of them, they are they have so strong characteristics, they act like the roots in the plants. So that's why they are called roots. But of course, they are also mental factors. They are also cettasikas. So these are the 6 kind of roots. Until here, are we everybody okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Not confused? Okay. Yes. Okay. So. Now we're coming back to this diagram. The akusala citta, the ones that we saw, obviously associate with the bad roots because they are unwholesome consciousness, unwholesome cittas. So they associate with lobha, dosa, and moha, greed, aversion, and delusion. They associate with the bad roots. And the beautiful ones, later we are going to see, associate with alobha, adosa, and sometimes amoha. So they associate with generosity, and non-aversion, non-greed, non-aversion, and non-delusion, meaning wisdom. So sometimes these 2 is must be there all the time when the wholesome consciousness arises. And
when we are in the good neighborhood of our mind, we have naturally we are naturally generous and loving, benevolent.
Yes.
What is the sense sphere? What does that mean? Sense sphere.
Sense sphere means it means the kama vachara. It means the plane of the senses.
So every kind of consciousness that arises because of what we see. We have eye consciousness. We are conscious of what we see. We are conscious of what we hear, smell, so taste with the senses, sense. And there are some other consciousness that has nothing to do with what we perceive. For example, when we're inside the mind, we're not seeing or maybe listening. At some point, the mind is not paying attention to the object. So it is just happening mind, only mental.
As in the session 2, we explained about that. So later, if you have time, then you can also check that video. So, and then ahetuka citta, rootless consciousness, are those that does not associate with any kind of roots. So neither lobha, dosa, or moha, or no alobha, adosa, and amoha. So this kind of consciousness have no roots. So today we are going to look at this. This looks a little bit like, because we haven't seen any consciousness that is without roots. But then today we are going to look at that. Okay, so now, before looking at this, we need to introduce a little bit of a mental process. So what happens when we see, say for example, so how does it happen in the mind? Because of the mental process, you remember that we mentioned that there are many different kinds of minds or consciousness, cittas happening, no? So some kinds of them are rootless, some kind of, they are root, so we have to understand the process in order to understand which kind are which kind. So that's what now we will first skip a little bit and introduce about the mental process.
Just to remind, right now, whatever she's gonna describe is happening right now. If we can see that eye, and if we can see that flower, and we know that that is an eye, and that is a flower, yellow flower, whatever concept arises, is because our mind is doing what she is going to. All this mental process is actually happening since we have conscious. We are conscious since we born, has been happening. So it is again describing this is what is right now happening in us.
Yes, exactly, because now we are seeing, so it is actually, we're describing the process of how seeing is happening. So let's say, when there is an eye, when there is a visible object, now we see that there is a flower, then usually what we think is that, okay, it's yellow, it's a flower, it's pleasant or it's unpleasant. For someone it might be pleasant, for someone who have allergy maybe not pleasant. And then I like it or I don't like it. Then if I like it, I might have desire. Oh, it's so beautiful, I want to bring it to my home and put it on a vase or something. Or if I don't like it, I have allergy to flowers I don't like, or maybe it's possible, then have aversion, it's possible. So when we see something, the process is so quick that we think that all these things happens at once. Because of course when we see it, we already know all these things. We know it is a yellow flower, we know it's like pleasant or unpleasant, we like it or don't like it. Yes? But this seemingly simple experience is actually a little bit more complex if we break it into small microscopic parts. So actually all this consciousness happens during the process.
I will repeat it.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes.
Billions and billions and billions of that right now happening.
Minds of consciousness arises and passes away during this process. So let's take a little bit more clear look into what actually happens. So in the Abhidhamma, the teachers, they usually use one example of a person sleeping under a tree with a mango falling from the tree. So this is called a mango simile. And yes?
So the guy is our mind.
Yes, we are this guy. Yes, remember?
Our
Okay,
mind.
so what I was trying to do is that I was trying to make an animation of this, but it is not so easy in the computer. So I thought of we need to use the best animation machine ever on this planet. That is our imagination.
Okay.
So, so let's get ready now. I'm going to say what happened, and then you're going to see this on your mind. And that's the best animation that we will ever see. Okay? Now, so this is the mind. Yes, we are this guy. So this guy, the mind, he's lying down under the tree. He is sleeping. He's sleeping. And the mango fell down from the tree. And because of the sound, he's being woken up by the sound. Then he woke up and he opened his eyes. Then he opened his eye and then he turned because the mango fell down. So he turned his head and then he saw the mango. Then seeing the mango, he stretched his hand and then he took the mango. Taking the mango in his hand, he smells it. And he smells it and then he knows it is ripened. This is a good smell and it's already ready to eat.
Oh.
Then he eats it and it takes longer time to eat it and he fully enjoys this mango, so nice. And then after eating the mango, then he said, and he takes the last pieces and then he said, like that. And he that 2 times and then he went back to sleep. So that's what happened in the mental process of seeing. Did you see the animation in your mind? Yes. Okay. So this is what happens. Now we will see a little bit more clear. Last week, Bante mentioned that when there is nothing happening in the mind, there is no obvious object happening in the mind, then the mind is in a neutral gear. Yes. So there are some kinds of consciousness that happens between different processes. If there's something happening, that is a mental process. No, if there's nothing happening, or if we are in deep sleep, or if a person is in coma but he's not dead, so some kind of consciousness must be going on. So in those cases, this kind of consciousness, which is in Pali called bhavanga, in English life continuum, is happening in the mind. So one after another, it arises and passes away, arises and passes away. So when something happens, so this is the bhavanga. When something happens, there is an object to be seen. Say, for example, we take eye-door process as an example. So if there is something to be seen, this bhavanga consciousness, life continuum consciousness, they get cheeky. Something's happening. So here in these 3, this is the last one that is sleeping, and then this one shake, and then it comes down, and then something else happens. Then the mind turns in itself. It turns to the object. Then it is here where eye consciousness arises. Then after eye consciousness arises, that is the man who sees the mango, no? He turned and then he saw the mango. Then he receives it. The mind receives the object, in this case the flower. In the mango simile, the guy stretched his hand and got the mango. And then he examines it. The mind, another consciousness do this other function. Then after that, he says, this is a ripened mango. Or say, here, this is a flower. So then, at this point, then the mind knows what it is. Then after that, there comes 7 times, 7 different kinds of consciousness, totally tasting the object, you know. Say, for example, the mango, or here the flowers, and he is involved into enjoying the object itself. So 7 jhavanas, it's called 7 of these jhavanas, consciousness happens. Then after that, then he get an aftertaste of the object. Then the mind goes back to neutral. Bhavanga happens again. So this is eye door process. So this is how it is all now at this moment happening in all of us. But it happens so fast, no? Yes, Bante?
So just to recap a little bit, we can understand the mental energy as a wave. Here the mind is sleeping. Well, before that, this is happening. This is only one unit of consciousness. You remember that the Buddha described, and science has said, also corroborated, that there are billions of firings in the brain. They know there are billions per second, billions of times the brain is firing. So the consciousness is arising, let's say 9 billion, what we have said before, 9 billion units of consciousness per second. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then to make a mental process, you get 17 joined together. As you can see, some are passive. The mind the mind is alive. That's why this is called mind continuum. This is life continuum. What keeps the mind alive is doing nothing, but it is alive. So as long as we are alive and the mind is working, we are not dead yet. This is happening billions of times per second. Then these 17 comes, they start becoming a little bit more active, a little bit more active. This is the most active, and then as it is going down, this is kind of returning. It's about to return. It's like the buffer. So the mind is saying, okay, I was active, now I go back to sleep. So right now, if we have 9 billions, you have a calculator? Somebody has a calculator?
Yes.
So if we have 9 billions per second, and you divide it by 17, how many of these processes are we having per second? If you
9
have
billion?
It, 9 billion.
How many zero is that?
In English and in
I don't know.
9, no? 9 billions is 9 or 6? 9. It's put 9, yes. 9 zeros divided by 17. So we will know how many mental processes. We can think, how come this happens so fast? Right now, we know that this is a screen. The mind knows this is red. The mind knows this is a face. That's a flower. This is a wall. Everything the mind is knowing right now is computing just by seeing. Plus, the mind is listening. Not at the same time. The mind is seeing whatever it's seeing. In another process, the mind is seeing. When one process arises, it only sees. It is only for one sense. So when the mind is seeing, it's only seeing. It goes away. When the mind is listening, it's only listening and it goes away. See how many words and sounds I'm making right now? And the mind is making is listening to each sound. Just t, k, s, m, a, u, and making the word, and to understand the word is having another process, and to see that this is a red or that this is a wall, and understanding whatever the mind is doing is having how many per second? You got?
Yes, I don't know how to do this number.
Okay, so this number is so it is 530 million processes per second. 530 million of processes, of these processes per second right now, to understand this reality that we are experiencing, to know that we are listening, to know that we are in a house, to know that we are in Los Guayabos. All these concepts, the mind is having 530 million complete processes where it goes to sleep. It's going, our mind is, let's put it this way, our mind is going to sleep 530 millions per second right now. Goes to sleep and wakes up to see what goes to sleep and listens and then goes to sleep and understands the word and goes to sleep and makes sense of the whole thing that we are understanding. So the energy, this is sleeping, let's say this is and then it vibrates. It's just not awake already yet, but it's kind of like you are sleeping, totally sleeping, then you hear a sound, let's say, or you an object comes to the senses, then the mind and then the mind turns to the object. It's just turning to the object. It can be the eyes turning, it can be the ears turning, it can be the nose turning when we smell something, or it can be the touch. And then we actually see in this case, chaku, but it can be sota, it can be kana, or anything that the sense. Then the mind reaches to the thing, okay, it turns, it saw it, then the mind, imagine, reaches to it, then gets it. Here, the mind doesn't know what it is yet. It already checked, for example, with the mango, it smells like something familiar, it looks like something familiar, and then this one, botawana, comes and says, it's a mango. So only here the mind doesn't know what it's looking yet, only here it knows, and then it tastes the object. And here we go, I won't jump to that thing. The mind experiences the object for 7 times. Javana is the active moment. It tastes the sight, it tastes the smell, it's touching really the thing, it knows what it is, and then it goes to it's coming back to peace, and then it goes back to sleep. 530 millions per second is doing this, and then now
the minimum 4.
Huh?
Minimum 4.
In order, for example, we see something, but we don't know yet how it is called.
And we don't know it's a flower.
We don't know it's a flower.
In one process, we don't know.
In the same process, you don't know. Only we see the flower, we know what it is, but the mind don't put the name yet. It needs to go back to the files and says, okay, hey, this is a flower. It used another process. So in order for us to be able to see this thing, at the beginning, the mind only see curve and yellow with a stem. But the mind doesn't know it's a flower. It needs to go to the file to say, that's a flower, because I have seen many flowers before. And in order to name it, to say flower, we need at least 4 of these. You will see how interesting it becomes, how the mind is putting all these mental units is the ones that we are seeing. We have been looking at only one, kusala, akusala, whatever we are looking on it. So then we will see how it becomes together. But Marcelo had a question.
When we arrive to this world, we have this as a default process, and we learn the concepts and the names and everything, and then we just put the words in this, but this is just how we, let's say, arrive to this world. I don't know if I'm
to this world?
Yeah, I mean, this is like default. The mind is
This is a
working
natural
like
process
this.
how the mind
How the
works.
mind is.
This
Okay.
is how
And
the
then
mind
we
does.
just learn the words and say, flower and this,
Uh-huh.
and the Chinese people say another word,
Yes.
but the process is
Yeah.
It's the same.
Universal.
This
since
is
we are
universal.
like
Since we are in the womb of the
Okay,
mother,
okay, okay.
these
That's-
processes happen.
Okay, that's it.
Maybe not the seeing, maybe he don't
Yeah,
see yet,
okay.
but maybe some mind.
Then we see,
process
then
happens.
For
it's
example,
pre-charged.
For example, a baby. A baby in the womb, maybe sometimes the babies come with the eyes closed, isn't it?
Okay.
So the baby not yet sees anything, or maybe, let's say, a blind person. He never will be able to generate visual consciousness as we know it, because he will not, his eye is not working, so he cannot see. So in the case of the baby, he has his eyes closed, and even us, when we close our eyes, we can say that there is nothing visual. Then, although there is black, the mind is knowing the black, but we don't pay attention. But then, as soon as we open the eyes, all this information, all this process starts happening so fast, and it is general. Every mind, even animals, happens like this. Now, baby, for example, don't know how it is called yet. So
Okay.
then it will start filling up these gaps. Okay,
Okay.
this is this object, and then the mother or the father will say, oh, spoon, flower,
Okay.
dog, and then he will start filling up the conceptual words that accompanies with, and this is maybe what you say.
Yeah.
We start putting the pieces of the puzzle coming
Yeah.
together.
We don't learn anything about this.
No, we don't
Okay.
have to learn
We
this
have
because
learned
this is
anything.
like a
Or
natural process.
coffee or something.
No,
Say
no,
for
no.
example, when we eat something, then the body already know how to digest. The
Mhm.
stomach no.
Okay.
So we don't have to learn how to digest the food. If you eat, then the stomach do its job.
Okay.
So the mind does
The
its
mind-
job. Same thing.
Okay.
We can say that the mind digests information, visual information, sound information, taste information in this way. The mind eats it tastes, it goes to sleep, it is always sleeping and waking awake. What? Listening or what? Seeing or what? Smelling? Imagine the work that our mind is doing right now in order to understand this reality that we experience. It's really amazing. And you will see more and more details right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so sorry, Nancy is connecting. Just,
Okay, so pass me, I connect.
Okay, so here there is one very important point. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting. I really like
I really love this part.
So, what is interesting here is another thing we need to pay attention to is that many times when we think that the mind knows something, we think that I know. But actually, this consciousness, each of them is doing a different function. The I consciousness, the one that saw, he does not receive, and he does not investigate, and he does not determine what it is, and he didn't turn. And so he only, this one turn arises, and then he passes away. Then he actually don't know what he turned to. He's passed it away. Then another consciousness arises, does its function, it sees, and then it's gone. It does not receive it, does not investigate it, it does not like it or doesn't like it. So actually it's like a teamwork. It's like a factory, it's like teamwork. Everybody, like a different person, do a different job. But how we think that I do everything, but actually it's different kind of consciousness arises and different time. Isn't that amazing? Like, yes.
So if the one that turns passes away, and the other one, what does it receives from the other one? Because, hey, this is the I pass away, and I just tell my own information, and then I pass away.
Yes. It passes away, and then this one, his job is. So something is happening here. It doesn't know what. Something is happening. So these guys, they just something's happening, and it passes away. Then the mind turns. This consciousness arises, and it turns towards one sense door. If the object is smell, then it is a smell nose consciousness will arise here. If it is a sound, then ear consciousness will arise here instead of eye. No. So he just turned to the five senses. Then he passes away. Then this one, because he passes away, do you remember that the consciousness cannot arise two consciousnesses at the same time? So one must pass away for the other one to arise. So his passing away gives chance for this to arise. So when this arises, it takes what the whole thing was going, not the process, because it's a natural process. So then he see that object that is, because it's shaking because of that object. Then after seeing that it passes away, it doesn't do anything anymore. It does its function. And then another one, this is quite simple. No, they are simple consciousness because they just only do a function and they don't do too much. And it receives it, investigates it. Then the one who received does not investigate. The one who investigates does not receive. So everybody does their own function.
They do their job, pass the information, and
gone.
die forever. So the first one is not. There was the moment for each of them to be alive. They just pass the information, and our consciousness moves in that way. We remember who we are. We remember who our family members are. Because of this, it's just passing. We are perpetuating our story moment to moment. Oh, remember who you are. You remember what is your name in this life. And then we pass information moment to moment. And then none of them. We are just alive by each. The mind is just alive by this moment. The present is moving so fast. 9 billion units per second. The present is moving. So we are just seeing at this moment, but the seeing is not tasting, and it's just do. And when one arises, when it gives its function, it passes it to the other one. Is that forever? It won't repeat ever. A same kind of consciousness that does the same job.
It's new.
It's new.
Yes, always.
That's why we are never the same. That's why the mind change. That's why we get old, because the body is also arising and passing away and never coming back ever. So it's just passing the information, physical information and mental information from moment to moment, and that's why we are alive. We understand. We feel. We get old. The body change. The mind change.
Then is there any kind of leftover or residue or something when it passes away? It just what?
It passes the potentiality to the other one. The information is passed. All what we know is passed to the other one as a potentiality to the other one. It's like a stafeta, how you call the
torch.
Like a torch. one passes the information to the other one, the other one touches and then passes to the other one. This one is dead, and the other one touches and passes. This one dies, arise and die, and rise and die, and rise and die. The mind is alive because of an illusion. We are alive as an illusion, but actually,
like a movie.
the mind is
Pictures.
alive and dying, living, dying, living, dying, living, dying, like the particles and our cells. We know many cells and atoms are arising and passing away right now in our body. Our cells are arising, stay for a little while, do their function, and then die, and a new cell will come. That's how we can move and place our body. So there is no residue. The thing is just a process that is pushing information or potentiality to the next one. If this one was hot, it pushed hotness. If this one was loving and cool, it pushed love or generosity in the same way. We become this thing by looking at, now we're looking at the consciousness in the microscope.
But sometimes the teachers also explains that there is no storehouse in the mind. So there is no one storage where we keep all the memory there. There is no storehouse, but there is a flow of energy that when it is necessary, when conditions arises, then when it is necessary, then this guy knows that there is a flower. But he does not actually go somewhere to a storehouse, check his file. What is this? This is a flower. In Spanish, it's called flor. It doesn't do that because there is no one place like that. But there is the potential of that energy is there, where when conditions arise, the mind can access to that information or whatever it needs. It just arises in that moment. So there is no storehouse, and those minds, it arises and it passes away, and new one arises. Those that pass away never come again.
This is why the Buddha says that what we think we are is just an illusion. We are not, nobody is really there. It's just a mental process that is moving. And yes, conceptually, of course, apparently I'm the same one as yesterday, but I'm not the same one as yesterday. I'm one day older. And the mind has changed billions of times already. But because we carry this story about ourselves, this ego, I know who am I know who my parents are, I know where I live, what I do, then we carry this information. This is what tricks us onto thinking that there is something that doesn't change, that doesn't move. But if actually, there is nothing. It's only a process happening. It's amazing.
Yes. Many times we think I see, but actually I don't see. I consciousness see. I don't see. Chakuvinyana see. It does its job.
And when I say here comes another more thing. When I know I'm seeing, I'm not actually seeing. No. I'm knowing that I was seeing previously.
It's always late.
We are always late. What we saw, and when we name, we see the flower. When the mind saw the flower, we don't know yet the word. When we say the word, now we are saying the word, and when we know we are saying the word, it's already another process that is knowing that I said the word flower because it saw at some moment, the eye without words saw the shape of a flower. We are always late from what we know. We think, oh, right now I'm very mindful. Oh, mindfulness.
We actually know
really,
what just happened.
We always know the past because the mind has this tendency. I know that I saw.
Okay.
It's really, isn't it amazing? It is very interesting. This is chapter number 4, and we will get into detail for
many different kinds of processes we will see in chapter 4. But now this.
But I think today, you will get a very good idea. You will get today. So Luis, and then.
Yes, I was just understanding that. So this is why the past really doesn't exist. I was thinking so before. What is with the past? Like the enlightened ones, they can remember something before of this life. So in this conception of the reality, how can they remember
past lives?
Because the information is being passed, is moving the thing, but it doesn't mean that all whatever we experience is somehow recorded on the potentiality. So it's passing, it's like, oh, okay, here we go, all your story. And then the ones, okay, here goes all the story. Okay, here goes all the story. So whenever you need it in this moment, you can go with clarity, you can go in the present moment. It's not that you go and it's not a time machine. You don't go to the past, but all the record of whatever our mind has seen, listened, and experienced, deep down is there.
It's here
The only
now.
thing that is that our mind is very distracted. It's distracted with many things outside, so we cannot reach these depths of information that is being passed as a potentiality, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment.
Those things are like energy, but don't worry, you don't have to carry all your stories of the whole samsara, like it's not so heavy. But the potential is there when it is necessary, or when the mind has the power or
Clarity.
ability, then it can access it. But now it is also recorded if the mind is have sufficient practice or ability, it can know. But now at the moment we don't know, because those minds doesn't have enough practice or enough condition for that to be possible, no?
I don't know if it's an appropriate question, but so each one of those is kind of the sparkle of life? That's what keeps us alive?
You can say so, yeah.
Yes, this is called life continuum. This is consciousness.
They
At
are
the mental
cittas.
level, yes. Physically, it's another process.
Yes.
This in the next chapters, in chapter 6, we will see
Matter.
how this goes and creates this matter. So it depends what you call it. Mental life, totally. This is living. This is life. We are looking at the essence of life in a microscope, and we are see how it develops and passes away as a process. Yes, we are alive. The mind is active.
So where does each kind of particle or sparkle come
Chitta.
from?
This is chitta.
It comes from a lot of reason. So some kinds of, now we will go to there actually. We are going there. Yes?
Okay.
So in a little while this question I think today will be answered. Yes?
Is there a name that une todo?
This
Mental process.
mental process. This is you are calling a
Proceso
mental.
mental.
El proceso mental you calling Pali? Witty.
Witty
Witty is what you can call this 17. One witty is 17 from here,
from the waking up
from
to
the waking up to
the
there.
last
17
taste,
units,
17.
and then it goes back to sleep. So it's a witty, and we will see it in chapter 4. Really interesting. The most interesting, because this is for seeing. There is one for listening, etc.
We will come
There
there.
is one when we die is different.
When we die also.
Because the
something.
mind is so weak, I would just give you something. The mind is so weak that it cannot taste the object fully. So it just has 5 of these. And when the mind is active, we will see there are different kinds of these. When we born, it is a different one, because it's the one that makes the ta boom. And this is the ta, the one that turns the new life.
Yes.
The other one was the boom. And the other one, ta, boom again. And then we live, but it happens so quickly. Here we die. This is one life. And this is the new life already without a stop, with no
Just
break.
like the one-
The condition goes
About this,
in a
there
new.
is a very interesting example that Sayadaw Silananda gives. He says that from one life to another life is actually there is no stop. So let's say for example this is the last and this is the next.
The first one.
Like it is passing, just continuing this whole stream. The whole process is continuing. Sayadaw said it is exactly like when it is New Year time on the 31st of December. 12:59 minutes. We call this the year 2018. And the next minute,
The next
when
second.
the next second, when it becomes 12, exactly 12. Sorry, it was 11:59. Then it becomes 12. Then we call it 2019. But actually, there is no different year between the 1 minute and the 1 minute. It's just like another minute that happens. So in the same way, this is the past life and this is the next life. Just when it changed, that we call it this is new year now. Oh, it is new life now.
Yes, but this one can change country and kind of
Yes, of course.
gender.
Of course.
You can be male and then you're born female.
course,
You're
course.
female, then you're born male. You can be human, then you become animal or whatever. So it does change.
Yes, of course. But what I mean
What?
is.
Well, not so. You have 9 months to go. If you're
But
born human.
actually, Bante, what I mean is that there is no
there is no
difference
Yeah.
between like one to another.
The
It's
process
just
is just
11:59 and well,
Just continue.
Just continue.
isn't it fascinating? This is like someone question.
Yes,
You
okay.
had a question? No.
Ask
Okay.
Alex,
This neutral could be the R&D.
Like the.
No.
No.
Very different.
Very
I think
different,
R&D
yeah?
is here.
It's already here. R&D
Yeah,
is
we
on
will
the.
not go there.
Okay.
We'll not
This
go
is the grossest. This is the subtlest. This is very little
Okay.
vibration. Then it goes. It starts waking up. It woke up. It's so. It's tasting. It's tasting. In the middle is at the top, and then starts going down. The first, the
Go
middle
there.
ones are the strongest ones. I better should.
Now
I
we will
better
go
be quiet
from there.
because she's going. She's going to that side. Very.
Just so when this happens, that it's going on like on and on and on and on and changes
From
body
life to
and
life.
being and does this process requires a certain material moment? For example, like when the brain is in a certain point. See? Like-
Continue with your questions.
So this is going on and on and on. I die. There's the last one.
Mhm.
The last. And then it cannot, like when the spermatozoid gets with the egg.
Yeah.
That's when it continues. No.
It's when it
Yes.
enters. It's when it starts.
Yes, actually, it is like
In
it
the
is
new
like
life.
that. It is like that. Yes. So, say for example, there are many different kinds of beings, and we haven't go into that yet. So, in the later chapter, we will go into different realms of different beings, different kinds of beings, because different beings have no bodies. No, but human beings have body, animals have body, so some have subtle body, like the devas and like that. Yes. So in the case that of human, let's say in the case of human, yes, the matter and mind, they are related. So in the last moment, when the, say for example, this is the last, no, say for example, not this process, no, but say for example, the last moment, chuti, which is called death consciousness, arises, then immediately the next process starts, the patisandhi, it will start, and that moment, exactly as you say, is when the sperm and the egg, when they come together, and at that moment, then the teacher says that in that moment, then there is a tiny little drop of oil, like in the old times, the examples that they use is like a rabbit hair. The rabbit hair is very fine or very thin. Rabbit hair dripped into a drop of oil, and the oil that lives in the tip of the rabbit oil, like that tiny drip, that happens, and that's when the rebirth consciousness arises.
Division of the cell starts at that moment. So the teachers call it kalala, which is this oil. The egg is there, has no consciousness yet. The sperm, although it's moving, is just reacting to temperature and chemical reactions, but
It's
has
not
no
a being,
consciousness.
yeah.
It is only in the moment when the sperm enters the egg. At that moment, even Luis sent us a video that the scientists have seen a light. There is actually, they have seen light. Whenever the sperm enters the egg, there is a spark. The union of both. So that's the moment when the teacher says that consciousness arises to the new being, and then only when the two things comes together, the cell starts separating from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 16 to 2, and then the fetus starts becoming. But consciousness, the being is already there. This mental process, maybe in a more rudimentary form, it's already happening because that being is not seeing, it has no ear, he has no eyes. It's only cells, so it has no nose, has no ears, has no eyes, so it's not having as complex as this, but it is already bhavanga.
In chapter 4, we will see what is the first process when the life happens. Like in a new life, what is the first process? We will see. Just like an introduction advertisement. 16 of this bhavanga, 16th life continuum arises. Then it starts the first mental process in the baby.
So we only take a little nap of 16 moments, like okay, new life. The mind starts again.
Yes,
but
yeah.
All the beauty and anger or anxiety, fear, it has happened inside of that thing.
Now
whatever we have experienced is happening 17. Wow, this is amazing. This is really amazing. Is it clear? It is fascinating, isn't it? It's like you will see in chapter 4. Very interesting.
Yes. Well, we have prepared a lot of information, so now let's go a little bit more because it's really interesting. So now this is in brief like how an eye-door process happens. Yes. Now, so go back to neutral. Okay, now remember, just hold this information of how the process happened, and we have to go back and see a little other information first. Remember, there are 4 classes of cittas according to its nature that we that we saw last some past week ago. First ones that we saw, akusala and kusala, unwholesome and wholesome, are the ones that plant seeds. Remember, those are the actions, no karma.
Active.
What kind of actions?
Mental.
Mental,
verbal,
verbal,
and physical actions.
actions.
Yes, so those are the consciousness which we act. When we act, so they are planting seeds. These are called karma. So if there are planted seeds, so there must be resultant from the seeds as well. So there are consciousness that are results of those seeds that we planted.
The fruits from the plants we planted.
So this kind of consciousness is called resultant consciousness, vipāka,
Vipāka.
Yes? Okay, so it can be good or it can be bad. Depends if it is bad seed, planted with lobha dosa moha, planted with unwholesome consciousness, greed, hatred and delusion, then it will come bad fruits, because bad seeds cannot give good fruit. And so good seeds, those that planted with a wholesome mind, will give good fruits. They're quite obvious, no? Like this is how nature works. So the vipāka, resultant consciousness, good ones and bad ones. Now we're coming to that. Then there is also another kind of consciousness that is called kriya, functional, which are neither seeds nor fruits. They are only a function. So it just does its job and then that's it. Yes?
No, that.
Okay, so now remember that we have these 4 kind of consciousness, and then we come back to the process. Here, bhavanga itself are fruits. If we are human being, those are good fruits, fruits of good results. Otherwise, we don't born as human being. So this bhavanga life continuum is resultant consciousness. Then this guy that turns, this turning one, is a functional consciousness.
It doesn't plant. It's not a fruit. It's not a seed. It doesn't make new plants or fruits. It's just doing its function. It's turning.
It's just turning. Yes. And then eye consciousness.
What do you think they are?
Eye consciousness, receiving consciousness, and investigating consciousness. These 3
Function.
Fruits, ladies and gentlemen. Because what we see, what we experience is because of our previous action. We are experiencing seeing Charana and the projector right now because we came to the house. Our actions brought us here, so that's why we are right now. Our actions, physical actions of walking, taking the car, in the case of some of you, and coming here, right now we are experiencing this because our previous action. This is what we are looking right now and listening, and everything we experience, it's always, generally speaking, a fruit of our actions, physical, verbal, and mental.
Yes, it is always like what we see, as Bante said, this with the 5 senses, whatever happens, if we encounter a pleasant object, that is because of our past good karma, then this kind of consciousness of seeing a good pleasant object or tasting something nice or doing whatever happens because of our past good deed. And in the other case, if we see something not pleasant or taste or smell or whatever, something not pleasant, then it is also because of a past bad deed that we did before. So these 3 kinds of consciousness, we'll go into more details now, but let's just go through now here. Then so these 3, the eye consciousness in the eye door process, and receiving consciousness, investigating consciousness are fruits. They are resultant consciousness, vipāka. Then Vodavana, determining consciousness, this one is a function. It's a function. Now here comes the tasting. The 7 jhavanas, what are they? They are seeds.
Seeds, ladies and
It is
gentlemen.
here where we plant seeds. Okay, now finish this and we'll go back to here. These 3 guys, like the after tasting, and going back to the life continuum, they are also fruits. They are also resulting consciousness. Huh?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Where are those seeds?
These seeds, now we're coming there. Now, so look, if it is a result or if it is a function, basically there's nothing to do. Because when the seed is already planted, when conditions are fulfilled, then the fruit will come out. Yes? So we have nothing to do about it because it's already done. Yes?
It's already planted. The fruit will
So-
come even we want or not. We cannot tell the mango tree, enough mangoes, don't give me more. If the mango has conditions, he will give as
Yes.
many mangoes as he can.
And there is nothing we can do. Like the mango is already there. We cannot change it to be an apple, or we cannot change it to be a banana. So because it's fruit, so there is nothing. Actually, this is the part where the mind is not actively doing something. It's
In
just
the
passive
present.
because it is happening.
Just receiving. Yeah.
Yes. So this part they are actually passive, and what is important is here. It's here. The seeds part. Here is actually where we are active. We are planting. So when we receive a result, let's say if we see beautiful scenery or if we see a terrible scenery, we cannot change because the scenery is already there. It is resultant consciousness. We saw it because of a past good karma or past bad karma, past good action, past bad action. So there's nothing we can do about it. We cannot change it. But here, if we react to that with loa, dosa, or moha, with greed, hatred, or delusion, or if we react it with generosity or loving kindness or wisdom, that is our choice.
We are planting new seeds.
Here is what we do with what we already planted, what we got. Yes, so here is super important because this is our responsibility here. Here we cannot do nothing. This is just a natural process, just happening. But here is the place where we can decide whether we want to react with negativity or with good ingredients. Okay, then, yes, continue because I'm going to. So here, it is our responsibility, and this is the most important part. This is the active part of the mind, and this is kind of the passive ones. Yes?
Whenever we talk about practice and in the present moment, when we are having an action, is here.
Yes.
When we do good or bad, is here. If we decide to do from the negative roots, greed, anger, and ignorance, or the opposite, it is happening here, and whatever we can change is only here. This is just the function of the mind. What Charan is saying is just given from our previous of these
Yes.
ones, all the ones that I made there in the
It's-
past. It is giving me all of this. I got angry and made enemies with someone in the past. Oh, you something like this. Then naturally, it's bound to come because of karma. Because of karma will give its fruits. That I will, whenever see that person or remember that person, boom, this will come negative. This will come negative result over here.
Like
I
you
will
see-
experiencing unpleasant, but I
sorry.
can change from here.
Bante, I want to add something
Yes.
in your example. Bante said that previously, we get angry with that person. So here we planted dosa mula chitta, no? We planted
This is-
hatred rooted consciousness
It's gonna give
here.
fiery
And then-
apples, fire
And then,
apples.
yes, so that's why when we see that person and that person shout at me, let's say.
Here,
So that person shouted at me, I have like unpleasant sound to
sound
my ear, no?
consciousness.
And then I hear that unpleasant sound because of what? Because of previously I shouted with that guy, and then I planted bad seeds, and now this unpleasant result is happening.
But the
He's
good
shouting
thing
to
is
me.
coming here. Please pay attention. We did bad. We get bad result, but we have again in another choice of generating more anger. Oh, you are really my enemy, or saying, I won't get in your temptation. I won't get into your not temptation. You said the other one. You said provocation. I won't get into your provocation. I suffer, I do myself wrong, so I don't want to plant this anymore, because if I plant again,
It will
this
come
one
again.
will come again with bad fruit. So right here is where we can stop the process, and even the life send us negativity, we could react with more desire, with more anger, or with more ignorance, or making the choice right here. The only place that we can change the mind is in these 7 units of consciousness every 530 million per second. We can change this and plant this seed. So if we plant goodness, what is gonna come? Goodness is. So it's gonna be easier to be a good
Yes,
person
but-
when we receive goodness. It is easier. Well done, Jenna. It will be easier to be a good person with good fruits, because who gets angry when you get a gift?
But
No
be
one.
careful, you can get desire.
Yeah, but then you can get desire. But when you get a gift, no one gets angry. So if you see the force of nature, if we change positivity to positivity, it will be easier each time to be better person because we are getting good fruits. Or the opposite, if we are not careful and we plant negative rooted seeds, we will get more negativity even inside us. We will suffer by ourselves in a room. No, only remembering, oh, he told me, she told me, I would tell her. No one is telling us, but we are just suffering and rolling in our own negativity, planting new seeds of negativity, getting new fruits of negativity, and rolling in misery by ourselves without even getting input from the outside. And once this is happening, if we are able to change from here to there, it goes to goodness, or we can sink onto misery. Even we have everything around perfect, food, family, and think who raised that something.
But then, when we say, when the process of saying no, I'm not gonna react like this. When we take all that choice and those are a lot of
Billions
this
of process, yes, of
Billions
course.
already.
Yes, of course.
to think that and say that and act on that.
So
So this is almost at an unconscious level when each one of these arises. Well,
we can say
Well,
yes.
It is, yes.
A big
but-
percentage, yes.
Yes,
It's
but
happening.
it is a natural process. We don't need to, like we said, when the stomach digest the food, we don't need to say, okay, now stomach, give some juice or give some acid to digest the food. We don't have to consciously do that, but the process itself does it. So it happens actually naturally. The process happens naturally. But here is what Svante said is the most important because we do have a choice. Here is very important in the Buddha's teaching because if everything is destiny, if everything is fruit, then there's nothing to do.
But why you study? Why you work? If
Then
everything
what
is
for?
destiny.
Then it's nothing to do. But
But
here
nobody can
is
change
our
it.
own responsibility. So that's why karma gives its result. But karma, who does the karma? We do the karma. So here, that's why we can change our life. That's why it is possible to change to become better. It is possible to plant good seeds, and it depends on us here. So it is not because I react badly because
We
the
cannot
what I see
blame
is
no
bad.
one.
No, this is not the because of the object. It's because of our own mind.
Okay.
It's our own responsibility.
See the blessing and the curse that this can be. When we get angry, when you get angry, do you think you get angry at least for 1 minute? When we get angry, at least I think 1 minute for sure. More, I'm sure more. We get angry for more minutes. But okay, we agree that everybody, when you get angry, you get at least for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, the minute has 60 seconds. It has 530 millions per second. So you make the account, how many seeds of anger did we plant in 1 minute of being angry? Now, I don't want to be pessimistic. When we are generous and loving, when we are experiencing love, in the same way, 1 minute of love means
Billions.
500, no, make the account, I mean, I don't know. 530 millions per second times 60. So you get 1 minute of love. 1 minute of experience of love was all these seeds, billions and billions and billions of seeds that will give
Good fruits.
billions and billions and billions of good fruits, sweet fruits, or negative. So,
Isn't that
how is it? How is it going? ¿Cómo ves? Ay, 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 ay. For example, right now, some seconds of
Billions and billions.
billions and billions and billions and billions of.
So let's say that before we actually know how our body physically and biologically or chemically work, the Buddha already studied how our mind worked with this detail.
Yes.
Yes.
It was like before we know
Yes.
Yes.
everything about our body, the mind was already
Yes.
carefully studied and
And the body
analyzed.
as well.
And the body
Yeah,
matter.
well, I know, but with
We will
without
see
the,
matter.
Yeah.
But now,
Only
yes.
the traditional way we
Yes.
in terms of science afterwards. But
And
yeah.
let's remember that this was discovered 2,600 years ago.
Without any
he was
instrument.
already without any measurements or MRIs or
Only
anything.
his wisdom.
Only the potency of his concentration and mind, he could see these things, find what it is, what is the cause, unlock it, and be able to teach it.
Yeah.
This is why when you see the teaching,
This
like,
is
man,
respect,
how he
that's
did
why
that?
it's respect for the-
Yeah.
How did he did that? To see that thing.
Many lives.
Many lives
Yeah,
of
many lives he practiced
billions
in
of
order
lives
be
to
able
arrive to
do
this.
Yeah.
But now, how lucky we are. Like the
Yes.
Buddha already gave this information.
Gave
We don't
the
have
map.
to find out by
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
Then we just have to know how it works. And here, be careful and to come
Yeah.
out of negativity. And
It's-
Question. Does this make sense logically? Does this make sense?
Yes.
Does this sound religious?
Mm.
No,
This
it's
is what
just
the Buddha
logical.
wants.
No, it sounds
No,
like
Sounds more psychologically
Science.
cognitive.
yeah, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Okay, so there is more to come.
Okay, so there is no conventional.
We love this topic really.
Okay, so now this is important, no? So we know here is where we can actually do something. Here, nothing to do. This is only fruits and functions. No control, nothing to do. Here is the important.
Javanas.
Now we have saw the eye-door process. So the eye-door process takes color and shape as its object, yes? And eye consciousness arises here, no, in the process. So in the same way, if we understand eye process, it happens the same in ear process. Meaning that the mind, some sound happens, the mind shakes, then the mind turns, then here ear consciousness instead of eye
It
consciousness
hears,
arises.
the mind hears.
The mind hears it, then it receive it, investigate it, and say, this is what, a bird or
A
whatever,
dog.
whatever. Then the mind tastes this sound, and it
Plant seeds.
It has plant the seeds. If I like it or desire, I want more, or I don't like this dog, or then I planted unwholesome seeds here, or
I love this dog.
I love it, or whatever. So the mind plants whatever. Then here comes another resultant consciousness, like the last taste of the object, and then it goes back to bhavanga, goes back to
Goes
sleep.
back.
So in the same way, ear door process. So if we understand ear door process, what about smell is the same way, yes? Just the object change into smell, and here consciousness become gana vinyana, smell consciousness, nose consciousness, sorry. Then another thing is taste in the same way, so just this changed. But now remember, although this is with the senses, this is what is happening in the mind, no? Not happening in tongue, yes? So this is what happening in the mind, what happens when we know the taste, let's say when we like it or we don't like it. So if we understand the taste, touch is also in the same way, yes? So the five sense process is basically the same way it happens, only it changes the senses according to the object, yes? So there's no problem here. Now, how about mind door? This is called a five door process, and how about the mind door process? Mind door process is a little bit different, because the sight, the sound, the smell, the taste, the touch, or whatever we think is already in the mind. Let's say, for example, I tasted a chocolate cake yesterday and I really liked it, and then the mind is thinking about the chocolate cake, but it is not actually here. So it is a, let's say, a taste object, but past, no? Not present taste object, it is a past, so this is a kind of like a memory or thoughts. So all these things is already inside my mind, it's not outside. So in this case, then the mind doesn't have to turn nowhere to the senses.
Because it's already
Because
in.
it's already in the mind, so it doesn't have to turn. And if it doesn't have to do with the senses at the present moment, this one's also not necessary. Yes?
Because the mind is remembering a sight, remembering a sound, so
So nothing to
the
do with
object
the
is
eye,
already
the
in the
nose.
mind. It doesn't need to turn nowhere. It is there.
And nothing to do with the eye if I'm thinking, and nothing to do with the nose or if I'm thinking, no? So this also not necessary. And then this investigation or receiving is when we are receiving from the five senses something, no? But if it is already there, you don't have to receive. So also this investigation also is not necessary, because the mind already know what it is. It is already there. Now this one, the deciding, also the mind already know what it is. It's not necessary to decide. So from bhavanga, from the shaking, something is happening in the mind. It goes directly to the mind door. So the mind does do a turning, but inside. It doesn't
Internal.
turn to the senses. It turns to the mind itself to receive the whatever thoughts or whatever object it receives, and immediately it reacts to it.
Yes.
So this is the mind door process.
The mind knows what is knowing, so it turns to itself and is thinking. That's why it's so cheap. It's so easy to be doing it, because we need no external. We can be imagining good or bad, and the mind is doing. But we must remember that even we are thinking good or bad about a person or a situation, the mind is planting seeds. Same. This didn't change. This didn't change in the amount. The only thing is the door. The other ones came from what I presently saw, from what I presently
Needs
heard,
more
from what I
process.
presently smelled. But this one, he's just, the mind is in itself thinking by thinking, turning to itself, to looking onto his object inside and planting all these seeds. And this happens much faster. There are much more because there are less units of consciousness being used.
Yeah.
The ones are here.
Less
So the mind
workers.
is really doing
Less
much
workers.
faster. The mind thinks faster than it can perceive. So it becomes really.
Is this the case of fear, when you imagine things that does not exist, but you
Yes.
feel fear?
Yes.
Dosa mula chitta.
That's
It's
also
dosa.
exactly.
Aversion. I don't. Whatever I'm imagining, I don't like it. That's why I'm averse to it. Don't all these unpleasant sensations come into the body because my disliking of whatever I'm imagining. Yes.
I will give an example. Many times the teachers, they said that sometimes when we see something, so they say, for example, I go into a room, it is a little bit dark, and then I saw there is a coil of thing there. Then the mind thought it was a snake.
Yeah.
Actually, it is a rope, no? Like a rope. But then the mind thought it was a snake. So in the first process, when I saw it, then it is Chaku Vijnana eye door process. Because I saw. But then the perception is wrong because it is not what I think it is. Then it changed into a mind door process. Now it is not seeing,
It's
but
a
then
snake.
it is a snake. Then the
It's
mind
not
is
seeing the
thinking
snake.
about it.
Yeah.
So this mind door process, fear, planting thousands of seeds of dosa, mula, chitta, aversion, rooted consciousness with fear.
Because of limited information, the mind got into its own negativity, but it's not real. He's imagining the whole thing. This paranoia even can go to madness. It's happening only in his mind because he's believing itself. It got into a
perception.
turmoil.
Yeah.
It got into itself, and it's believing the thing. Oh, its fear is real. It's real. It's real. And then the mind just can destroy itself to the point of killing himself.
Does it happen the same with pain?
Physical pain.
Yeah, your physical pain.
There are two kinds of pain. If it is mental pain, it's only happening in the mind. Also, that
Only
means
with dosa,
suffering.
mula, chitta,
But if it is
remember? With
pain,
aversion.
It's true.
then it is the body. It is the body. This
Body
one.
door.
Body
Yes,
door.
body door.
It goes to the door and then it comes like
Then
or
it-
dislike,
it
and it
can
has a
react,
turning.
But it can react
that-
with or without because it is a body sense
Okay.
sensation. Painful sensation is a resultant consciousness. No, we go back a little. Okay, let's go back a little bit.
Yes.
Here,
One more.
a little bit more. Okay, so
This one.
painful sensation is here. It is an akusala vipāka, so that means unwholesome resultant consciousness. We feel pain in the body. Then here, the body receives it, investigates it. Oh, this is body pain.
Because it's
Now
related
I'm angry
contact
with
with the
this
body.
pain or not. Is this our
No
choice?
choice.
Now, if I hit myself and I'm experiencing
Then the
the
no choice.
physical pain,
Pain.
then the physical pain goes away and I start to thinking, oh, if tomorrow my back hurts
Hurts
again,
again.
this has nothing to do with this. It's only mental process and it's only suffering
And the
in
other
itself
process.
because of the aversion he got from previous real experience of the back pain. So he said, oh, maybe tomorrow it hurts. It is only mind. It's only madness. Only
Now,
happening.
it is mind door only.
Mind or-
That's
So
the
this
point.
is happening. It changes, depends from where the information is coming from, actual experience in the present or in the present mental rumination. It's Luis.
I had a question regarding to the contrary case with sati chitta. It's like is javana
It's active,
is active
Yes.
when you are in,
but it's
in
kusala.
sati?
It's kusala. It's a wholesome consciousness when there is
But
that.
in this classification is part of kriya or
Sati? Sati, no,
Sati
sati
is in
is
jhana,
jhana.
it's active.
Okay.
These are the actives. When we have awareness of the present moment or wisdom, we are planting good seeds because of the nature of this. Is actually active. We know that we are doing good or we know that we did bad. Never in the same process because they are different ingredients. Sati and anger can never go together. When we are angry, we are only angry. Then the next moment, I got angry. Then there is sati. Then there is sati, but always from back. That's why anger is dangerous because we can kill on the blindness. we could kill on the blindness, and people really kills on the blindness. Then there comes the remorse and the guilt because how come I did that? Yes, of course, your mind was blinded by anger. Then the mind was not really thinking on the consequences of your acts. Then that's why remorse and guilt and on the jail people have this mental storm because not being able to control that moment. I mean, it's a
Bhante?
yes.
About sati, it is active consciousness, so it is jhana in terms of kusala, because we are in that time with kusala. Sati is a universal cettasika of kusala, of wholesome consciousness. So it is actually planting seeds. Because imagine if awareness was a resultant, then there's nothing to do. What we practice sati for what?
We are enlightened.
We don't have to do anything because that's how we practice. It is fruits and cannot be practiced. So that's why it cannot be. It is not fruits. But if it is a totally enlightened person, then he does not plant seed anymore. Then those jhavanas, also it happens in the same place, is kriya. It's only functional.
It's only functional.
Because he already uprooted all the negativity. So whatever arises in him is only positive. But because there is no more greed and no more delusion, he does not plant seeds anymore.
He cannot plant seeds anymore because he has no roots anymore.
So
something that has no roots cannot give seeds. So he cannot plant anything.
So the good he does is actually good deed, but it's functional. It is not kusala in this case. It is not
akusala or akusala.
Huh?
Neither kusala
Cannot
nor
be
akusala.
akusala because he does not do bad thing anymore.
Yeah,
But
neither both.
he do good thing. If he do good thing with wisdom, or if he helps other people, it also will not give result because he does not plant it anymore. So those become only functional. So function, function. That's it.
He
You just
finished
do the
already.
drum and that's it.
Chuti and Patisandi, first and last chitta, can be sati, for example.
Chuti, it depends. Yes, it depends. It depends what kind of consciousness the
You
person died.
Because
But
it's
those are
universal.
resultant.
Okay.
Those are resultant of the karma that the person did in this present
this
life.
life.
In that case, will be vipāka.
Yes.
Yes,
Vipāka.
yes, because
Yes.
the mind is, when we die, the mind is very weak, so it's not really active. It's so weak that it dies.
It will be sati vipāka.
Actually, it is a vipāka with sati.
Yes.
Because those are technically called Mahavipāka chitta. Those Mahavipāka chittas are with roots and with sati, but then we're going there in 2 weeks, I think. 2 or 3 weeks we will be there. Yes. So yeah. So let's make this basic clear, and then we will arrive there. Yes, because now we are rootless. We're talking about rootless. Okay.
Everybody okay?
Everybody okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
Would you
we
like?
continue. What is the how is time?
It's 10:30.
10:30. Okay, we still have a little bit of time. Yes.
Just one question. For example, we talked about the mental process with the senses,
Five
right?
senses.
5 senses, and then now we're talking about the
Mind.
mind. For example, if we are, when you talk about metta, for example, okay, we are like, I don't know if I told you, but my grandmother before sleeping during almost his whole life spent like an hour sending
Praying.
blessings.
So
Yes.
All the time.
So good.
Blessing.
Blessings,
So many
blessings,
good
blessings,
seeds.
blessings, blessings.
Wow.
So-
Good seeds.
For example, when you are, let's say I have someone that I consider my enemy, or let's say I don't like that person. When I see that person, it's harder for me to react in a positive way.
Yes.
But when I remember that person, I can control a little bit better my feelings for him or for her. When I, for example, you understand this now, what I am understanding the mental process, I can, let's say, okay, I cannot control what I see or what I feel
Yes.
or what I
What
But
you
I-
feel, yes. How you feel about it.
well,
yes.
have to,
What you see.
sorry, what I
cannot-
see, what I hear, but now I can spend like 3 minutes
Sending loving kindness. Sure.
for that person
Yes.
Yes.
before I see that person, because when I see that person and I'm not working before, maybe I won't be able to react in a
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good
That's
idea.
very intelligent.
That's a good
That
idea.
you are really undercutting the tendency of the negativity. You are playing tricks to the mind itself.
I did
You are
this
putting
with one person
positivity.
specifically,
Yes.
and I found that it was working because
Yes.
I was preparing myself to the moment
Yes.
when he appeared. It was like, man, I've been working with you, and
Yes.
but But that's
Yes.
That's
now I-
mind though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's
And it is
very-
very good because look, if the mind spends so many javanas,
Yes.
so many of these moments in wholesome consciousness, in loving kindness, then it is more in the good neighborhood of the
Okay.
mind. So when you meet this person, it's less likely that you get angry so fast, so easily, because you have been in the good mood,
Yes,
you know,
yes,
let's say.
yes.
But if already the mind is angry, then you meet that person, then
And again,
then
you
it
connect.
could more easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing happens the opposite. If I'm gonna see that person and I'm in the car, I'm going to see him and I'm remembering how
Yeah.
angry he made me. When I see him, oh, I want to give.
Exactly.
And the man says, no, what I did?
Exactly.
You did me all these things in the car. So it is you were all
You've
that
been doing
in the
so
car.
many
You do it
things.
to me.
A lot
So
of
then
things.
he's like this because we charge that present,
Yeah.
that moment with all the negativity or very intelligent.
Yeah.
That's sadhu, because you are in the peaceful of yourself thinking, well, that person is not wholly bad.
Yeah.
Maybe we had not a good moment, but that doesn't mean that he's not kind to his mother or to myself in the
Yeah.
past. So you start looking, then you're already softening that tendency of negativity. Then when you encounter that person, you can even at least see him neutrally, not anger. And if we continue doing the opposite, eventually we can arrive and say, really, I'm sorry for my side. I don't know from your side, but I'm so be able to forgive, be able to forget, and to say sorry for my side, and the problem is gone because we undermine the mental process that was feeding that negativity. So we can see that we can change our life by changing the mental process. How the tendency of the mind, if we know that first of all, we need to be empowered to know that we can change something.
Yes.
And it is
Yes.
in the JJJ.
Yes,
Javana,
this is
Javana.
most important. This is really important because that means that we can do it, and it is here. Good or bad, we have the choice. So we are responsible for this.
And what to do is just very simple.
Suggestion.
Do the opposite.
Yes.
There is hatred, you put love. There is dosa, you put adosa. What is adosa? Benevolence. May you be well physically. May you be well mentally. May your family be well physically and mentally. We are contrasting, how you say? Contrarrestando. Counteracting with the opposite. Fire needs water, water needs fire. To eliminate each other.
Yes. Okay, so let's continue a little bit. Now coming back to the I-door process. Now we'll leave the mental process for later because now we are dealing with the five-door mental process in this point. What we have seen now until last week was the akusala chitta, no? Unwholesome consciousness, greed-rooted consciousness, hatred-rooted consciousness, and delusion-rooted consciousness. So these three types of unwholesome consciousness are those that plant seeds, yes? It happens in this javana, yes? It's plant seeds. So what we have been seeing until now is only these three kinds. So, yeah, those that plant seeds, these three kinds. Okay, so these three kinds, because it has bad roots and they are planting seeds, what will it give? Bad results. Yes? So those consciousness that we are going to look today, finally we are coming here, to the rootless, unwholesome, resultant consciousness. So this is the group, the bad result of the bad seeds, of these three, the bad seeds being planted, are these bad fruits are the ones that we are going to see now. Now,
rotten fruits.
yes, bad ones.
Putrid.
So we see
Yeah.
rootless, unwholesome consciousness. So we may say, why is it rootless? Now here comes the point. These three, they are roots. Yes, they are bad roots. So they are very tightly, although they are strongly holding on to, because like anger and greed, and it is so strongly holding to the mind that makes us do unwholesome deeds. No, they are so strongly holding. Although they are strongly holding, they are sick. They are unhealthy roots. They are not good roots. They are bad roots in itself. So if a tree has unhealthy roots, whatever it can produce,
It's bad
it
trees.
is not a healthy tree. Yes. So this kind of unhealthy roots produce tree is that, yes, it does give some result, but maybe it gives some leaves or maybe some flowers, but it cannot give good fruits because the root is unhealthy.
The root is bad quality.
bad quality,
It gives a
yes.
bad quality tree,
Tree
and the
and-
tree cannot really give new fruits
Good fruits.
with seeds to make new roots.
Yes, so it only gives some kind of results like leaves and flowers in this case, but it cannot give a healthy apple with healthy seeds that can have the potential to produce another tree with roots. Yes, so it does, because it does not give healthy fruits, so there's no potential for it to give further roots. Yes, makes sense?
Yeah.
So that's why these 12 akusala cittas, they only give some kind of result that is like leaves and flowers that has no potentiality to produce new roots. So that's why the resultant consciousness of these 12 kinds of akusala citta is without root. They are rootless, unwholesome resultant consciousness. Okay? Until here we're clear? Okay, so now let's see what are they. What are the results of this unwholesome consciousness? Actually, they happened here. They happened here and they happened here. In this case, they are not good fruits and they are only some leaves and unhealthy leaves and flowers that has no potential. That has no potential to give further roots. So these 8 kinds of consciousness are the ones that when we experience unpleasant objects, unpleasant sight, maybe the sound is not working, unpleasant sound, when we taste something bad, unpleasant, when we have some pain, some kind of we hit us or whatever, then this kind of
Okay.
Gracias. Unpleasant sound, unpleasant sight, unpleasant smell, taste and pain. So this, when we experience this kind of experience, this is with the unwholesome resultant consciousness which we experience these unpleasant objects. So those are the results of our past unwholesome actions. So these are the 7 akusala vipāka cittas. The unwholesome resultant consciousness are of 7 kinds. What are they? Unwholesome resultant eye consciousness, when we see something unpleasant. Ear consciousness, when we hear something unpleasant, somebody scold us or somebody shout at us, whatever, bad words or anything. Nose consciousness, when we smell something bad. Tongue consciousness, when we taste something that is not good. Body consciousness, unpleasant touch. Then those receiving consciousness and the investigating consciousness also, because those, they receive what? They receive the same object. As when we see the mental process, then the mind turns and then receive the object according to the sense. So this, they receive and investigate those objects, same object. So those unpleasant objects, they also receive. So these 7 types are called the unwholesome resultant consciousness.
So when we can see that when our mind is fond or likes to dwell in negativity, the mind gets sick. It cannot generate a healthy tree. It cannot generate healthy fruits. So actually, the more negativity we allow in our lives, in our minds, the more negativity we allow in our lives, the more difficult it is for us to be happy. The more difficult it is for our body to be healthy, our mind to be healthy, because the negativity is giving rotten. So it is really where compassion, the teachers call for compassion to say, when you see a suffering people, instead of throwing him, even he's doing wrong and like this, instead of throwing him more, we should need to be compassionate as much as possible. Try to pull that mind out of negativity, because he will be rolling on it. When he is alone, he will suffer by himself. When he encounters people, because of his appearance and all his mental sickness, people we are very good to perceive, we will try not to go close to him or her. So you see how negativity, and this shows very clearly how anger, desire and ignorance makes our mind sick. The mind is sick for long, and a sickness that is not treated, it just becomes worse and worse and worse. So compassion for ourselves, because we have that, and energy to try to change that flow of negativity because it's going down if unattended.
Thank you, Mante. So how are we?
So these seven, this kind of consciousness could be for kusala as well, right?
Yes, yes. But when we
When we get
see
it.
something good, or when we smell something good, or when here is unwholesome resultant consciousness. So the same way, it also have wholesome resultant consciousness, which we are coming in
But
later
that gives
on.
good apples. Ding.
Yes, but those ones are when we see good, nice things and pleasant things, hear nice words, and smells something good, and taste something good, and pleasant body touch, and in this also investigations also they are good because the object is good. Those are the result of good karma, and this is the result of bad karma, bad actions. Yes.
The word is then akusala, not akusaka.
Akusala. Yeah,
yes,
akusala.
yes.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
Let's change it right now.
Yes.
I would like to include the idea of fearness, or to be angry, not only in the state of to be with hatred to other people, but to be aggressive. Fear and aggressiveness, where did you put in the three bad
Dosa.
roots? Dosa.
Dosa.
Always.
It's aversion because, aversion, don't like something. Fear doesn't like what is imagining. And you said aggression?
And aggression.
Aggression wants to destroy the
Yes.
thing that believes to be a threat. So I don't like.
But I'm not conscious that I am having that fearness to someone. I just have the feeling of fearness,
Yes.
which is most of the problems that we all as human beings have all the time. We are in anxiety or in anguish, and we don't know to what. We just feel fear.
Yeah, but fearness arises because of an object. That we know the object or the object is obscure is different. But there is one fear about something. And generally, when you put the threat, it's always fear to sickness,
Threats.
pain, and death.
Die.
All the time. Everything goes to
Don't
to
want that.
Finally,
Finally,
you
it's
will,
death.
at the end of the street,
And the end, if someone fights me, I'm afraid that he harms me.
Yeah, of
We are
course.
afraid of harm,
Hurt.
pain,
Threaten.
sickness, and ultimately death. Death is the last one, but many people will say, no, I'm not afraid of dying. Yes, but you're afraid of harm. And harm, if it grows, means sickness. And if sickness grows, means death. So finally, it is two things. Our attachment to well-being and life, which is, there is nothing bad about taking care of ourselves. The problem is the attachment and the irreality that we generate, thinking that we will be alive and well forever. So this disparity with reality starts making trouble in the mind because we only want the good, but it so happens that life gives both. So it becomes a problem in the mind. So ultimately, I don't want something that I'm imagining. The people we are so unconscious of ourselves that we don't know we have what we have here, and we think it's a chronic thing. Oh, I'm just afraid. But when a skilled person by himself or with the help of someone else start checking the causes of fear, fear has causes. Fear never arises because of it just arose. There is always something that I'm afraid of, and generally, maybe I cannot put a name to it, but it will be aversion to ill. Aversion to badness, aversion to pain, mental pain, physical pain, and ultimately to cease existing. That is the strongest fear because we are very attached to ourselves. We are very attached to life and to pleasant. So both are there actually. Loba, the desire, is acting in the back, but dosa is a pushing. And if someone threatens my security, my things, which ultimately gives me pleasure or security, I get aggressive and I will defend it. I willfully will attack you if you dare to touch what I consider mine, or my pleasure, or my security. Then it will come. The aggression is a result of the inherent negativity towards losing.
Aversion. Aggression is obviously is violent, is wanting to strike, wanting to destroy, and that's the characteristic of dosa. So it can only be in the dosa family, because loba is I want it. No, if I want it, it's not wanting to strike or destroy it.
Loba
so it does not.
seduces.
It does. It's another family. Yes.
Okay, so maybe when we accept that there is something that causes that, it's a very important first step towards that solution, because if not, it's like, I don't know, and I feel that, like, I don't know what is going on, and it's like you get desperate and you don't know exactly what to do. But there must be something, and I will find it, and I will look for it with some tools. The search maybe gets clearer in
Yes.
that way, right?
Sí. Pues,
Yes.
Bueno, va en español. ¿eh?
Sí.
Yes, we
Eh,
translate.
Todo ese proceso que mental es la mayoría inconsciente. ¿No? Lo que dicen los psicólogos es que la
Yes.
mayor parte de nuestras acciones lo están movidas por el inconsciente.
Because we are not trained. That's why it's unconscious. But when we start training and meditating and listening to the movements of the mind and why it does the thing, it becomes conscious, totally. So people say that it's scientific, and it's very well, our teacher says that there is no unconscious actually.
No.
There is ignorance, there is seeing or not seeing. But that doesn't mean that the mind is not doing all these processes and is knowing the person, is getting angry about the person and all that. But we don't know. That's why we need to practice. But you
Pero
were
si hay
saying, yes.
cosas inconscientes,
Ajá.
que traumas,
Yes.
que no los quiero hacer conscientes porque pero
It
sí
hurts.
me determinan
Yes.
mi presente.
Yes. We don't want to make that unpleasant experience present because it hurts. So we are actually doing with something that passed in the past the same. We don't want to face it. But the thing is there, and we can be conscious, and the only way to clear that up will be to make peace with it, or to forget it, or to forgive it, eventually in a conscious level. As long as we keep this myth of unconscious in the mind, there is a little bit of chance in life. Okay, it is because it's on my unconscious. I cannot access it. All the teachers says it's not possible. It's not true. With mental training and really careful listening, we can understand the source of our fear, the source of our pain, the source of our aversion, the source of our love. So once we saw the sources and are willing and with the courage to face them without rejecting them or placing them onto a deity, and God or something, an external force that impose that to us, as long as or to put it into the unconscious, as long as we don't take responsibility and go into the causes, the thing will be there. We are making it to stay longer because of our unwillingness to deal with it. I don't mean that we must go and deal with these things, because actually the teacher says, well, what is past is past. It's previous fruit. What you need to deal and take care is of your present moment, because that's what you're gonna experience in the future. So he said, let go, release of yourself, but yes, the unconscious, regarding how reality works and how the teachers describe it, it's a myth. It doesn't exist really. It's our inability to see at this moment. That doesn't mean that when we get a very sharp mind, we can go and understand the causes of all that and being able to release them, let go and forgive. Is it okay?
So there is a problem with translations because when we say consciousness, then when we all these types of consciousness, we call them consciousness. No, actually they are cittas. So in the first two class, then we also defined what citta means. Citta is something that takes an object, is the bare connection of the object. It knows the object, and that's its function, no? And that's what it does. But because there is no other English word that is or Spanish word that matches exactly what cittas does, so the closest word that the translators throughout the years have found is like consciousness. So we use it as consciousness. But the problem is, if we remember or we take the word as consciousness, we already have idea of what consciousness means. If, like Guillermo said, if there is conscious, that there is unconscious, according to our usage of language, Western language. But citta is not that. So that's why I do encourage everybody to use the word citta Is so that we don't get confused with the idea of Western idea about consciousness. What is consciousness? Am I conscious? Am I not conscious? No. And but all these are chitta. Why the teacher said there is no unconscious, because even bhavanga, they are chittas. They are consciousness. No, if you translate it.
Even when we
even
say,
if we're sleeping or
even when we are
coma,
sleeping or in coma, the mind is actually
it's
conscious
happening.
in a
Bhavanga,
very
bhavanga.
subtle way.
Yes, although we might know it or we might not know it, it doesn't matter, but consciousness is happening. So in that sense, there is no unconscious. Yes?
Since that question of what is really consciousness, I think that the correct translation could be cognitive awareness. Does that fit?
Yes, yes. Sometimes chitta is
Sounds
translated
more.
as cognitive awareness.
For me,
Sounds
what you
more-
are teaching us is more cognitive awareness.
If you translate the word as cognitive awareness, it is okay. But I mean, it is closer.
It
but,
is a little bit
but,
tricky,
but,
no?
but still, I do prefer chitta, because later on, when we come to awareness, then it comes to okay, so it does have to do with sati then. It
Yes,
has to
because
do
when
with
then there is a
mindfulness.
problem.
Oh no,
And
it
when
does
we are-
not. This one does not have sati.
This,
It does
this-
not have it's just
yeah,
happening.
this is functional consciousness.
functional.
I mean, yes, let's not use the word consciousness. It's units of mind. Chitta. This is a
Unit.
less active chitta, and awareness. If we say awareness, will only be able to happen here, because this is not really aware
one,
of
say, for
itself.
example, this one cannot.
It is true. It is
Cannot.
true.
So if we use other terms, then other problems happen. So let's say chitta is chitta. So from now on, we will always say
Something that happens in Buddhism, there are some things that we approach that are kind of sacrilegio, isn't it? So for psychology and contemporary understanding of mind, when Buddhist teachers comes and says, there is no unconscious, amen, Freud start crying on his grave. It's like, forgive me, Freud, forgive me. But actually, what you would describe does not exist, because the mind is active. Even in the most passive moments, the mind is active. And even a person can arrive to the moment with very mental training to check what is do, because the Buddha did, and we could be. If our mind gets so sharp and so stable, so that thing, and there are more things, for example, the notion of the forces outside or something like that. So we need to be careful with these things, but yes, definitely our teachers, from what we have heard in the Buddha's teaching, how the nature, which is based on how the nature works in factual understanding, not only the concepts that arise from it, apparently there is no unconscious. The fact that we know what is happening or not is different. Yes, apparently we all act unconscious because we are not aware of ourselves, even of good or bad. We don't know when the mind is good, when the mind is bad. So even when we are happy, we don't know that we are happy. So we need to be careful with these things. The mind is cause and effect. Cause and effect, unit by unit, it will push in the way it was pushed.
Yes.
It was pushed strongly, it pushes strongly, like the pieces of the domino. If you push the first one softly, this one will push softly this one, and softly the other one. But if you push with force, it would just cause and effect, cause and effect.
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
So in the notes, there are more notes coming in the back, but then I think there's too much information for today. So I think we need to.
Yeah, I think here is fine.
So I think we need to take a
Keep
tea.
calm and have a little
Okay, so now we'll take a tea, and I only wanted to show you a little bit. The last thing is in your notes there is one graph like that. I just want to tell you how to read it. Just how to read it very
Chemical elements.
very easily. Yes, this is actually the words presentation of this exactly the same. So it's not different and it's not difficult. So let's look, for example, in this line that say consciousness. Here there is life continuum bhavanga, which is this one. This one. Yes, if you look here, I think maybe it's easier at the moment.
Okay,
here.
point here. You go here.
Yes.
This is
This is
one.
this one. Okay, then it goes another 3 kinds, because I like this graph and I put it because it has the Pali words and it has the object and it has what kind of it is resultant or it is karma or what is it, also it is here, so it is very complete. So
We should
that's
put
why I
both
put
next
it.
next one. Print
Yeah.
also this one so you
Yes.
see.
So the next 3 bhavanga that shakes are those 3. Yes, they are vipāka citta, they are resultant, so this is the apple. Yes, then the turning, panchadora vajana, the turning,
Functional.
5 door averting consciousness is a functional. Then it happens eye consciousness. Then it happens receiving consciousness and investigating consciousness. They are resultant. And then the next one, votavana, determining consciousness. It is a functional. Then happens 7 javanas. Here, 7
Active
javanas.
ones.
These ones. They are the karma. Yes. Here
So
we
it's
do good and
like
bad.
this?
Yes, if we read
This
like this
and then that.
continue. Yes. Okay. Then after that, the 2, the Tadaramana, and in English sometimes it's translated as registration consciousness, but some teachers say it's also it basically that it's not that it really registers something. You just get the taste, the last taste of what here you tasted.
It's getting
Yes.
like this ready to getting ready to
Go
sleep.
back to sleep again.
And then
Yes, and then come back to Bhavanga life continue. So actually this is the same as this in a graphical presentation or in words. In the same way for mind door, so we won't repeat it now. It's just only changed to this mind door into here. In the same way we read it in the same way. Yes? Okay, so next week we will continue with Vedana. Because remember, every kind of consciousness has to associate with some kind of feeling, some kind of Vedana. So what does this 7 kind of unwholesome resultant consciousness, what kind of feeling does it associate with? We will come to next week. Yes, continue with that. Yes?
I just want to clarify that I need to know why 7 moments in Havana. Why 7?
we need to ask the universe.
But because I mean, and also if freedom only exists in this period.
Yes.
Yes.
We can only change life there.
There's only the
We
active
only
part.
can change
Active part
life
is only
there.
That's the only
It's
active.
surprising.
7 moments that we have opportunity to do good or bad. And this good or bad will shape whatever fruits we get. And with the fruit that we get positive, we need to be careful not to make new negativity with desire and attachment. And if we get a negative object, we need to be careful not to generate more negativity towards the pain, towards the unpleasantness, and do good. Always do good on that window. We have a window, but remember, we have 530 million windows per second. So actually, it's a lot. We have from 1 second, 530 million opportunities to plant seeds of goodness. So this is our point. Automatic seed, automatic seed, and we need to check. I mean, but we can do it in a relaxed.
And also there is also
Yes.
one point that now we are not going there yet, but just for your information, so that we don't say that yes, only 7 at this moment and that's it. No, because there are moments in deep meditation. In the jhana cittas, remember, in the rupa vachara and rupa vachara, those javanas that is happening active, it can prolong like hours for hours.
7
Possible.
days.
But
You can,
possible,
but the
possible.
mind is in absorption of meditation,
But
and you
that's
can
not
prolong
happening
it
to us in the
up to
life.
7 days, non-stop 7 days. Javana, goodness, javana,
Possible.
of goodness.
Which means
But
it's praying too.
But this,
It's praying.
Right?
You have the opportunity when you are praying.
But that does not prolong to that because that's
Yes.
only in deep absorption meditation.
It is
Okay.
much more
That's,
subtler and
yeah.
much more powerful than praying.
There.
Because
Yeah.
praying is still a conscious, and for
So
example,
7 and
we are
4
praying,
is
we
7.
listen a sound and they say, something and somebody's knocking, okay, and we continue with the prayer. So the mind is actually changing a lot. We know that it is time to do something, and the mind is very short period. That one is in a moment when the mind is really detached from external.
So basically, you don't know anything outside.
It is don't know nothing outside. The mind is in itself, just focused into one wholesome object, and it generates this goodness for up to 7 days. And the Buddha was so specific that when monks were practicing that, he told them, he advised them to make the commitment for the body to continue alive, because the mind is so detached that the body won't be able, he cannot eat in 7 days. He can stay just on these things, so the body will stay alive, and then when he wakes up, all the continue of the processes of body, but he won't die. So he makes that resolution. Okay, I will stay 7 days in absorption, and the mind is just in kind of pure light somehow, like this, pure love, pure like this, but he hasn't yet enlightened. Imagine what enlightenment is. Enlightenment is free from,
That's just
because that
concentration.
guy goes to that space and then comes back to the world, and he can get angry. I mean, he won't, because his mind is very developed, but he can
It's
technically
possible.
he can get angry again when he comes back. Oh, why I finished
But
my
I'm doing here, but I'm doing here.
where you put my things? I stay 7 days of meditation and you move my furniture or something. you took my...
And these 7 days is also not a myth or whatever. It's because of the limit of the body. If passing 7 days he don't eat, don't drink, he die.
He can
So
die.
that's why he can only, for human being, he can only stay until that.
So the Buddha said, when you make this meditation, be very careful, because you need to
Just
come back 7 days, 24 hours. Only jhana of goodness, because akusala
That's your
cannot
jhana
happen.
cittas, no?
It's
Jhana,
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 jhana. Imagine our potential.
Yes.
I mean,
That's
it's
possible.
Yes.
so, my dear friends. Let's.
In a more, let's say, gross way, using the analogy of the digestive process, the only moment we can, I mean, digestive process is happening 24 hours, but we can just choose what we eat at the moment we
When
are
we
just
eat.
ingesting something.
When we are active.
Exactly. The rest is like, okay, I ate like
Then
chili.
nothing to do, yeah, it is,
so-
that's
so-
why.
so it's
Yes,
like,
I eat chili, I get acidity.
I cannot
I-
change it.
Cannot.
Yes, you
Whatever
cannot.
eat
happens,
out.
it's happening.
Once I ate chili. Oh no, come back.
Vomit cheese.
No, only one, maybe.
yeah,
But
yeah.
then it came. Or if I drink milk or something sweet,
Whatever.
then the body will do its thing. Yes.
Okay,
Only
so
in the
it's
active
in the
moment,
moment
jhana.
that- Okay.
530 million opportunities per second. my dear friends.
Yes, but also remember that that this calculation is approximate,
Yeah.
no? Because when we are sleeping, then more bhavanga is happening because we're not looking, we're not hearing something. The mind is sleep, so more bhavanga happens. So it less mental process happening in those times. So it's not exactly one process immediately, some bhavanga after process. Maybe sometimes more bhavanga, sometimes less bhavanga, depend on how active
The mind is.
that moment is.
And the ability of the individual, if an individual has a very dull mind because he was using drugs or something, or he did something to his mind, all this process changes. So the more we train, the more we put this into action, the better mental health we have. And a healthy body does amazing things, and a healthy mind does amazing things. That's why the importance of cultivating oneself. So my dear family, let's
So
close, but I
we'll
would like,
close,
which is very nice, what are we bringing home?
Oh yes.
Let's bring, this is really useful for us, and it really gives at the end, you surprised us very nicely when something that was said briefly, it was very important to somebody, all these points. So what do we bring home today? Feel free.
Like what points
Yes.
shock you or like wow,
what are
or
you
something.
bringing that you say, wow, this is inspiring, nice, or I don't understand something, whatever coming.
For me, it was like the whole thing was mind blowing. Really.
Yes,
Literally
when we
mind-blowing.
first listened
I'm
to
amazed.
that also, I
I'm
felt
amazed, and I'm really excited to know that I can work to
Jose?
to build a different path in the mind that will benefit me and others. So that's what really I take home as homework.
What was shocking? Like what part? That it is possible, or what?
Yeah, the opportunity that we have to change, to be planting good seeds.
yes, with good or bad results, whatever life presents at this moment, we cannot change. But how we react to it,
Oh,
that's
yes.
one choice.
That's awesome.
Who else? What do we bring home?
For me, that as well, the whole thing was mind blowing as well. But knowing the mind process without outside
Sense.
sense stimulation or
Engagement.
something kind of brings me the opportunity of really deciding at every moment that I can just focus on a good thing, at least for 1 minute.
Yes, direct the mind. to
Direct the
good,
mind.
Good object.
Exactly. If I am, if I have the opportunity of doing nothing in terms of not walking away my home or whatever, it's like start being aware of that opportunity. That just understanding that the mind can just bring a good thing and focus on this good thing and keep
that
going.
will change the direction
And
of
plant
you.
a lot of good
And
seeds.
plan a lot of good things
Of
and
future.
prepare yourself or your mind for the outside
Yes.
world,
Yes.
whatever happens.
That's why the practice of waking up in the morning and giving ourselves some time to reconnect with our inner positivity really gives a frame to our whole day.
Yeah.
So it's not a waste of time at all
Yeah.
to put our mind into a why are we doing this? Why am I working? For the goodness of myself or my family. We come back to our goal in life. We come back, I can do good. I have this potentiality. We set up the train head to that direction. Whatever coming is going to be easier to go in that way because we already said it. In the same way, if we wake up or sleep with negativity, the mind is bound to see negativity throughout the day because it was already with that glasses. So we change the glasses and put the clear ones,
Yes.
the pure ones.
Mentioning about mental process, of course, even if we are at home, like we don't have a task that we have to focus on doing at that moment, then we can do all these exercise, then like metta, loving kindness and all these exercise. But of course, in microscopically, all the eye process and sound process is
Yeah,
actually
it's
still
not
happening
happening.
because we
Yes.
can still see, you can
Yes.
still happen, but we can direct the mind
Exactly.
into this, and which is really
Okay.
good.
Okay.
That's,
Yes. Who else?
Well, I'm very happy because I have the opportunity every moment to plant new seeds and discover in my inner process that I can have the alternative all the time, changing from negative to positive, and I'm planting new seeds, which means that my acts has always consequences.
Yes,
yes.
yes, that's
Later
very
those,
nice.
That I love it.
Yes.
I just love it.
That is a big responsibility, but a big blessing as well. Oh, I'm
It is.
responsible. I do good fruits. I do bad fruits. Yes,
Yeah.
but that makes us human. It brings us from fantasy around that. We cannot blame no one. Then we have no blame. Who I fight
I'm
with?
responsible.
Who do I am responsible. Every
Exactly.
moment. Yes. This is-
Exactly. That's
yeah.
the point.
yes.
Yes. So that's also very important because when something bad happens, now we don't have to blame nobody because this is our past bad
I
action.
planted it.
I did it, and now the result comes. It might be this life, maybe past life, I don't know, but whatever I did before, now this is happening. So it's not because of other people; it's my responsibility. And now, how do I deal with it? It's again my responsibility. If I want to plant good or plant bad, and those that I'm planting right now, when times come, it will also give result.
With bad, we can do good. With good, we can do
become
good.
bad.
Or with good, we can become bad. For example,
Yes, with a good result.
we can do bad with
Say
it.
for
So-
example, we have such good results. Somebody came and gave me a chocolate cake. Wow, so nice, a good result because of one past good karma. And now I'm reacting with loba, with greed, like this, and then now I'm planting because
Chafa.
of good result. I'm planting so many bad
Shared.
seeds that later on.
Chafio,
will
charma.
give bad seeds. So it is possible
Chafio
also.
Selfishness.
So it is also
Chafio.
possible.
Possible.
Yes. So from good results, if we are not aware, if we don't know, then we plant
We
bad
can do
seeds. Or with bad results, if we're not aware, then we react with anger because of this bad result, or we react with good.
So-
So change it from good on. So bad and good, good and bad is always like this. So we have to be careful. That's why sati. That's why mindfulness.
Who else wants to share or? Yes.
I find a tool in this explanation because if I see the process, I can see also the opportunity to get rid of attachment because I can understand that there is no past. And
Only
if you
present.
concentrate in this reality, you can have sati all the time.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, very beautiful. Everything focused on towards practice. So since there are only 3 persons, let's finish. If you feel like, what you bringing home? Well, you're staying home. You're you're already home. You were.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bueno, la importancia yo me llevo la importancia de estar presente cada vez más estar viendo qué está pasando
The importance to be present and start to see whatever is happening
en mi mind.
in the mind. Yes.
Ujú.
What do we think?
A mí me sorprendió el proceso, me pareció muy interesante, pero también, bueno, vi eso, ¿no? El peligro y la oportunidad, y sobre todo que sí, o sea, cómo va fluyendo y cómo es importante aprender a ir fluyendo con el proceso y no quedarse atorado o agarrando, como dices, ¿no? Luego mucho, no empujar y no que retener, no, es imposible, aunque lo queramos hacer, todo está así fluyendo. Eso-
Flowing.
Sí.
The process, the beauty of the process and the opportunity we have to flow with it.
For me, it's sati to be more aware in each day, no? Practice more frequently and more often, yeah. In sati.
Yes, very beautiful, my dear family. It is really inspiring to see that everything, all this inspiration and movement went to practice.
Yes,
So
this is the
actually this is
purpose of Abhidhamma.
This
To
is
know,
why.
know the process for what? For practice.
Personal responsibility and practice. So this is the ingredients for maturity. This makes a human being mature. I am responsible and I can do something. So it is hopeful. It has possibility. I make up my destiny. Well, it's not really destiny. I make up my reality in the future. So this is the very essence of a mental maturity of any kind of being. So I'm really
Yeah, I also wanted to share one point that I think it is important. In the Abhidhamma study, it is also to understand how reality really works, to destroy our wrong view, our wrong idea. Because I think I do, I like, I want, I get, I see, I hear, who sees
Which
I
one?
consciousness?
Who? He's mine. He's me.
Like I know
Yeah.
and everything I think I do, but actually no, like thousands and millions of consciousness, each one doing their own job.
Which one
Where
is me?
is I?
I consciousness, Javana is me, Tadaramana is me, Botawana, Sampadichana, Bhavanga, who is me? It's only process and it's going like, oh mama, really. It's just a mental, natural process and we can flow with it. The mind, as Seattle Termina says, the mind doesn't belong to us, but we are responsible of it. The mind doesn't belong to you, but you are responsible of it. Uy, mama. It's like okay, my dear friends,
Yeah,
thank you
let's
so
close.
much for offering each other, ourselves, this space of contemplation. May these seeds fall into the best ground so it can give more energy to continue doing good for ourselves, our families, and all beings. And with that intention, we appreciate our teachers. Thanks for all these generations of goodness. And we repeat, may these seeds help us find fully liberation from all kinds of suffering. And we recite, Idano Punyam Nibbana Pacheyo Hotu. Idano Punyam Nibbana Pacheyo Hotu. Idano Punyam Nibbana Pacheyo Hotu. With the same intention that these fruits is beneficial for other beings, especially those who suffer more than us, which are millions and millions and millions. We are actually very fortunate. May these fruits be beneficial to all of them. We repeat, Idano Punyam Sabasatana Pajima. Idano Punyam Sabasatana Pajima. Idano Punyam Sabasatana Pajima. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Amya, Yo Mucha Mahuro. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Alo Chachadunya, Amya, Yo Mucha Mahuro. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Alo Chachadunya, Amya, Yo Mucha Mahuro. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. El próximo miércoles, próximo domingo, en Medellín.
Gracias.